The summer I turned 30 started to unravel as soon as it began. It was the last day of charter season, and I was ironing a billionaire's underwear in the laundry room of the Serendipity, the super yacht I'd worked on for the last 5 years, when Nina called for me over the radio. I set down the iron and unclipped my walkie-talkie from my shorts, kicking aside a pile of dirty sheets from last night's toga party. I'd been on laundry duty all morning, but I didn't mind, seeing as it had gotten me out of earlies, the first shift of the day. "Joe," the radio called again. "This is Nina. Do you copy?" I rolled my eyes, glad she couldn't see me. I knew Nina was worried, given everything that had happened, but she could at least give me a second to respond. "Go for Joe," I sang into the walkie-talkie. "We need you in the galley." "Copy that." I clipped my radio to my shorts and turned off the iron. Off the boat, Nina was my best friend, but on it she was chief stewardess, aka my boss, meaning she made my life alternately fun and miserable. But over the last 3 months, ever since the accident, she'd been softer on me, letting me out of earlies because mornings were hardest, not complaining as much as she normally would when I missed a water spot on the faucet in the master bathroom. I was appreciative, but the special treatment made me uncomfortable, and I didn't like how she kept checking up on me. She'd corner me in the crew mess or pass me a drink in a Bahamian bar and ask how I was holding up. "Fine," I always said, taking a long pull of whatever tropical concoction she'd ordered for me. Was I fine? Nope. Not even close. But that didn't mean I wanted to talk about it, not even with Nina. Other than the week I'd gone to my sister's house in North Carolina, the last 4 months of my life had been back-to-back charters in the Bahamas. Every week the cycle repeated. Pick up the guests, cater to their whims, including ironing their ridiculously expensive underwear. We'd Googled the brand. Who seriously spends $165 on a pair of briefs? Drop the guests back at port, flip the boat, enjoy a well-deserved night off, pick up the next guests. It was chaotic and exhausting and exactly what I needed. Out here in the middle of the ocean, I could pretend my real life, the one where I drove a car and wore shoes and lived alone, was on hold. But even I had to admit the cabin fever was starting to get to me. Before Nina could radio me again, I raced up to the main deck and pushed through the galley doors where, as always, chaos was waiting for me. "There you are," Nina called, a wrinkle of concern on her brow. She sat at a small table, her fingers nimbly folding a mound of cloth napkins into little sailboats. "We have a beach picnic, remember?" Beside the pantry stood Britt, third stewardess and my painfully messy bunkmate. Her curly hair shook as she dug through a plastic bin of decor, piling dried starfish, delicate sand dollars, and seashells at her feet. Once I'd asked her how she could be a stewardess and such a slob at the same time. We were essentially maids on fancy boats, after all. Britt replied that she spent so much time cleaning up after other people, she had no energy to pick up after herself. "Fucking beach picnic," Ollie, the Serendipity's chef, muttered. He whizzed around the galley like a pinball, his Irish accent rising above the hiss of pans on the stove. "He's having a bad day," Nina said. I glanced at Ollie, who was now hacking a watermelon to pieces. "When isn't he?" "Touché." Nina tugged the sail of a napkin-turned boat in her hands. Her dangling unicorn earrings, the ones she wore every day, swung back and forth as she looked me over. They were the only sign of the goofy Nina I knew outside of work, a stark contrast to her neat high ponytail and severe expression. Though she was tiny and at 5'2" was a couple inches shorter than me, she carried herself with a confidence I doubted I'd ever have. We must have made an amusing pair, petite, dark-haired, intimidating Nina, and me, your non-confrontational, average everything blonde.